and good evening. Today is Tuesday, January 14th. My name is Sandra Lopez, and you're watching Movement News, Chicago's newest grassroots media organization committed to the presentation of local Chicagoland news, updates, and narratives. We aim to present stories that represent you and your local community. Welcome to the movement. So first up, we're looking at local news and updates. On January 1st, recreational marijuana was legalized in the state of Illinois, making us the 11th state in the nation to legalize the plant. Key takeaways include high demand, high tax rates, and pricing, which has pushed some Illinois leaders to consider the importance of ensuring equity to all communities. On Sunday, Illinois leaders, including Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth and Senator Robert Peters, met at the Mission South dispensary to discuss the importance of ensuring equity to all communities and a push to have more minority-owned dispensaries. Illinois is updating its birth certificate system to affirm the gender identities of transgender parents, after a trans-masculine person asked to be officially recognized as a father who gave birth to their daughter. The couple, Miles and Precious Brady Davis, learned after giving birth to their daughter in December that the Illinois Department of Public Health automatically names a parent who gives birth as a mother/co-parent on a birth certificate. Miles Brady Davis is trans-masculine, which describes a person who was born female but is typically masculine in gender expression. Trans-masculine people do not always identify as male. Miles, who use they/them pronouns, carried and gave birth to Zane and wants to be listed as her father, the Chicago Sun-Times reported. Growing up, I always wanted to be a dad. So now that I'm a father, it means a lot to me that my child's identifying document states that, Miles Brady Davis said. The couple enlisted in the help of the LGBTQ nonprofit Lambda Legal to approach the agency and effect change. Melanie Arnold, a spokeswoman for the Public Health Department, said that they were the first transgender parents to bring the issue to the state. Next up is international news. Following the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, and retaliatory rocket attacks on Iraqi bases housing U.S. troops, President Trump addressed the nation. He announced that he would increase sanctions on the nation of Iran in response to these attacks. The president, however, did not indicate that there would be any further military action. At this time, Trump and his administration have not provided evidence to justify their assassination of Soleimani, despite earlier statements alleging imminent attacks on U.S. personnel. Members of both the Democratic and Republican parties have issued sharp criticism of the administration's actions, with Republican Senator Mike Lee of Utah agreeing to sponsor Senator Bernie Sanders' No War Against Iran Act on January 9th. The House of Representatives passed a resolution that would require President Trump to seek approval from Congress before taking any further military actions against Iran. Election 2020. We are currently less than 3 weeks away from the first and arguably the most influential state in the presidential nominating process. On February 3rd will be the first day at the polls in 2020 and is considered by many to be an indicator of where the candidates stand in the eyes and the minds of the national electorate, as well as a candidate's likely success. While Iowa is not the sole decider in the nation's nominees, the state's caucus has often predicted each political party's eventual nominee. Currently, Des Moines Register polls shows that Senator Bernie Sanders is at a slight lead over fellow candidates Warren, Buttigieg, and Biden. There has been growing criticism of the influence of the Iowa caucus, as it lacks the diversity of the nation as a whole, and the Democratic Party is nowhere near representing the national electorate. For example, the population of Iowa is 90% white. Now we're going to move over to the hot topic. Our hot topic today is labor in America. When adjusted for inflation, workers' wages have remained stagnant since the 1970s. Meanwhile, CEO salaries are at an all-time high, and inequality continues to climb. Unions have begun to push back, and recent years have seen a drastic increase in strikes and labor actions. Just last year, 46,000 General Motors employees went on strike for over 40 days, demanding higher pay, better benefits, investment in American plants, and a full-time status for temporary workers. It was the first major labor action in the American automotive industry in a decade. In 2018, the CEO of General Motors made 281 times the wage of the median GM worker. Also last year, the Chicago Teachers Union went on strike for 14 days, the CTU's longest strike in decades. Teachers in the CTU and school support staff and SEIU Local 73 argued for more nurses, counselors, and smaller class sizes, eventually forcing Chicago Public Schools and the new mayor, Lori Lightfoot, to concede to several of their demands. A new national focus on labor organizing has turned the spotlight onto a multi-billion-dollar global corporation, Amazon. Recent reports of dangerous working conditions, improper hiring and firing practices, and even some on-the-job fatalities have inspired labor organizers to expose the human cost of online convenience. In the city of Joliet, Warehouse Workers for Justice has been fighting for the rights of workers in Amazon and Walmart warehouses. Here with us today is one of their organizers, Roberto, a lead organizer of the group. He has joined us all the way from Joliet, and we're really excited to have him here. Hi, Roberto.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for coming to Movement News. So just to start, can you tell us a little bit about the Warehouse Workers for Justice?
So we were started in 2009, and in response to a couple of things is that Mark Meinster is the founder of Warehouse Workers for Justice, and he's one of the people who organized the Republic Windows and Doors strike. And one of the backgrounds of that story is that Republic Windows and Doors was one of the last of manufacturers that were represented by the United Electrical Workers that had closed down and lost production and union membership. So part of what people were trying to figure out back then is where can we build a labor movement where people can't just up and leave, our manufacturers can't just go to the South or another country. And we decided to start a project in Joliet, Illinois, surrounding the largest inland port in the country where hundreds of warehouses had recently been built in the decade before that. So that's really, was the impetus, and the start was to really, we're a worker center, not a union, but to have some kind of organization that helps out the working class people in warehouses, which is one of the largest employers in the state.
Wow, and what are some of the working conditions that your organization has uncovered?
Yeah, so, back then, we did a study, Bad Jobs in the Goods Movement, and we found that 63% of people who worked in warehouses worked through a temporary staffing agency. So they weren't even afforded a permanent job, and there's a lot of precarity. So people weren't directly hired through a warehouse. They work for a temp agency, or they work for third-party logistics company, and oftentimes they suffered from low wages. Sometimes there were even, wage theft cases, or discrimination based on race, gender, immigration status. There are just a lot of things that we saw, health and safety issues, and that's that's the other reason why we decided to, start this project and start organizing in Joliet, Illinois, and outside of Elwood and Will County.
I see. So you were working directly with a lot of the labor workers.
Yeah, exactly. One of the first campaigns was at a Bissell Vacuum, which is in Elwood, Illinois. And that was one of the first projects. But we've been involved with organizing at Walmart, at various different warehouses throughout Will County. So,
I see.
Yep.
Nice. And how does your work relate to the national labor rights movement?
I think it's, so one of the things that I think Warehouse Workers for Justice really represents is the shift in the economy, where we are losing manufacturing, and it is moving to Asia and other parts of the world. And so warehousing has really become more critical because they still need warehouse laborers to be able to move the goods to get to our retail stores, to get through our Amazon facilities, and get us all the goods that we buy as consumers. So warehousing is just a very critical part of the overall economy and for major retailers. But because of the staffing agencies and contracting out and, really the anti-union environment, labor standards have just been driven very down in the overall industry, and that's what we're really here to correct. And we have a partner organization in outside of the Inland Empire, outside of Los Angeles, the Warehouse Worker Resource Center, and that's one of the other big warehouse hubs in the country. And they were responding to all the same things we were, as, the precarity in the workforce, and just the really bad working conditions.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how important would you say it is for workers to, let me start that question over. What is the significance of Amazon and other big box companies and their establishment here in the Chicagoland area?
Yeah, so, what we would like to say is that the Midwest, and, this would go for other retailers, though, but Chicago is critical to the overall operation of major retailers and Amazon. We would say Amazon is at the heart of the network here in Chicagoland. And why is that? This is the only place within the country where 6 out of 7 of the Class 1 railroads come through here. We're a day's drive from about 60% of the continent. So there's always been this railroad infrastructure, and retailers in Amazon are very dependent on this establishment of warehouses here in the Midwest. So this is a place where a lot of goods have to go to be able to get what people buy off the shelves in retail stores or through Amazon. An interesting part about Amazon is they did not exist in the state of Illinois whatsoever in 2015. The first Amazon was built in August 2015 in Joliet, Illinois. In Will County, we've seen Amazon not only grow to be the largest warehouse employer, they're just the largest employer, period, out of any entity. So that's how enormous and quickly Amazon's grown. Within the last month, there's a announcement of a 600,000 square foot warehouse in Maywood and another large warehouse in Shanahan, Illinois, and that's within the last month or so. So there's just exponential growth in e-commerce, and more people are buying online and getting things delivered directly to their house each and every day. Amazon posted the largest profit ever, this past Christmas season. So that kind of gives you an idea of where Amazon plays a role. And, retail stores are closing, but we're not necessarily losing those jobs. What's happening now is they're moving into e-commerce and online delivery and, drivers, to get you your toilet paper within, 8 hours of when you,
Right.
so that's the goal, is to be able to provide this instant gratification. So they're really trying to speed things up faster and faster in their delivery network.
Wow. And so how important is it for workers to organize?
Yeah, I think that really, if we're going to win justice from some of the largest corporations in the world, that it's going to be critical that we're organized within their supply chain. And Chicago's a very strategic place for the labor movement to do this. Congratulations to the UFCW 881 on your victory today. There's the cannabis warehouse in Joliet just voted to unionize, and every single victory like that really matters in uplifting not only wages but workers' lives. So I would just say that there's all kinds of essential industries, whether it's food, our retail, our marijuana production, our whatever it is you can think of, there's a warehouse for in Chicagoland. And the labor movement can play a very vital part of both defending workers' rights, but also really having some power over some of the largest corporations in the world. Those are strategic points in how they deliver goods, and if we can get these places organized, we can have a lot of power over some of these corporations.
Wonderful. I mean, and there's no doubt that persons of color are most affected by some of the things going on in these warehouses, some of the injustices. Can you speak a little bit to that and how it really disproportionately affects people of color?
Yeah, no, I absolutely. One of the big campaigns we've worked on over the last year was with the Walmart's largest warehouse in the country in Elwood, Illinois. They insourced their warehouse and gave people raises and better benefits and things like that, but then fired, almost 200 mostly African American workers over criminal background checks. But the other thing that happened is they said you couldn't be direct employees of Walmart, but you could work for a staffing agency doing the same job at Walmart, making less money with no benefits. And oftentimes, whether it's immigration status or because of your race or relationship with the criminal justice system, people are pushed into jobs with lower labor standards. So really, I would say that race and I would include gender have a huge impact on how you're going to be treated within the workforce, within warehouses in Chicagoland.
Wow. And I'm not sure if I asked or if you already mentioned it, but how many people typically work within these warehouses? What's that number?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of variation. The overall number is 190,000. It's warehousing is one of the biggest top 5 employers in the state. But there's these, there's a automated IKEA warehouse where there's probably less than 80 people there because it's automated, and it's 1.5 million square feet in Joliet. But then you get, an Amazon in Joliet, during peak season, you might have well over 1,000 people. So there's a lot of variation from warehouse to warehouse,
Right.
I would say.
Okay. And what can viewers do to help in this fight?
Yeah, follow Warehouse Workers for Justice on our Facebook, online, on social media. Look out for our events, come out to our events, support our campaigns. We're out here fighting for workers all over the Chicagoland. If you're a warehouse worker, connect with us, contact us through our website. We want you to become our member. We want people to fight back. We can completely change the industry. So, and people are doing it every day. So, you have a home.
Fabulous. Roberto, thank you so much for joining us at Movement News.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.
As the struggles for men and working women persist, Jeff Bezos remains the world's wealthiest man with a net worth of over $110 billion. Amazon warehouse associates make an average annual salary of $29,084. How is that for disparity? All right, so that's all the time we have for tonight. All the issues we discussed on this episode are directly related to voter participation. The laws that affect our lives and our communities are written by those that we elect to serve in office. Just so you know, 4 million young people turn 18 every year. That's a voting bloc with the potential to decide elections. You can register to vote by visiting www.ova.elections.il.gov. And now we have our local plug, an evening dialogue with Centoya Brown Long on Thursday, January 30th. Centoya Brown Long will be in dialogue with Dr. Tara Betts, the literary editor of New City, as they discuss her new book, Free Centoya, My Search for Redemption in the American Prison System. They will also reflect on the impact of trafficking in Black communities in recognition of January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. For more information on some of these stories and for more amazing content, you can go ahead and visit us online at Mass Movement Media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And tonight we leave you with Chicagoan Rosalba Valdez's music video, Saluda mi bandera. Thank you and good night.
Si tú vas a Cuba, tráeme un recuerdo que hace mucho tiempo que estoy en mi pueblo. Cuando vas a Cuba, busca a mis amigos, dales un abrazo, esos son los míos. Cuando vayas a Cuba, me la saludas a mi bandera. Cuando vayas a Cuba, me la saludas a mi bandera. Cuando vayas a Cuba, me la saludas a mi bandera. Cuando vayas a Cuba, me la saludas a mi bandera. Cuando estés en Cuba, encuentra a mi familia. Dile a mi madre, extraño su sonrisa. Cuando estés en Cuba, busca a mi hermano, trabaja en Viñales, pongamos su tabaco. Cuando vayas a Cuba, me la saludas a mi bandera. Cuando vayas a Cuba, me la saludas a mi bandera. Cuando vayas a Cuba, me la saludas a mi bandera. Cuando vayas a Cuba, me la saludas a mi bandera. Caminando por las calles de Cuba, 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 caminando por las calles Cuando vengas